Hello, good evening. Welcome to Dave's Tackle Box on the 16th of June 2013, and it's officially summer. We had sunshine again today. Well, had a bit of rain as well, but mostly sunshine, which was good. So my son was able to get off his backside and cut the grass, which he really thought he'd got away with, but there you go. On tonight's show, I mean, let's be honest, if you're a vapor and you don't know about the MHRA announcement made during this week, you must have had your head under a rock or something. We're gonna dissect this statement that was made by the MHRA midweek, Wednesday, I believe it was. We've been doing a bit of digging, and we're not particularly happy with the way they've gone about some things. So we're going to be having a chat about that. I'm also joined, as well as Dave Dorn, I'm joined by Andy Sutton, who has been busy doing his smoke without fire thing. I caught a couple of I caught a YouTube video entitled "Going to London" or something, and then another one saying "Coming back from London" the other day, which I thought was rather good. And he's going to be giving us an update on what's going on in the world of smoke without fire. I know there's some exciting stuff that he wanted to share, and there's some more releases imminent, I believe. But as we always do, let's start the show with the titles. Where are they? If I can find them, I'm going to run them. There they are. Three, two, one. Oh dear, he messed that up totally badly. So I was supposed to click that on after one, not just as I said three. It's been like oh, and there goes the e-cigs. What are you laughing at, Sutton? Not that funny.
No, I was just thinking of something.
Oh, broke me even now. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
How are we doing?
Good evening. Very well.
I'm walking about and breathing, which is good.
That's always a bonus, isn't it? Your age, isn't it, mate?
Hey.
Okay, right. Look, you know, let's just give a little heads up on this MHRA thing. I think it's got a steaming, hasn't it? I was reading earlier on UKV, and Kath from e-cigs was commenting on there, and she seems totally unconcerned by it. But I've got to be honest, I can't brush it off quite so lightly. Whilst the arguments are good, you know, these people are dangerous. People listen to them. They create perceptions. And so we're going to have a proper look at that. But as promised, before that, we're gonna say hi again to Andy, who's been sort of zipping about all over the place. What have you been up to, Andy?
I've been filming several interviews. As some of you may know, I'm working in Cardiff most of the week at the moment, and I've been over to Swansea to talk to ecigs. I spoke to them the day after the MHRA announcement was made, and yesterday I went up to London to talk to Clive Bates, and he kindly invited me to his house, and I sat with him for about 2 hours and got some really good stuff. So those are the videos that are going to be up next. And I also, as you mentioned, did a couple of little video logs in the car park and of my day. It's been a while since I've been up to London, and it reminded me how much driving through it isn't particularly good fun.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got some other things in the pipeline as well. Sort of going to do some sort of slick and glossy sort of not instructional videos, but well, they will work as instructional videos, but sort of slick and glossy videos that for the uninitiated. So if you're new to vaping, or if you don't know what it is, it will start from the beginning and work its way through.
Right.
So we're working on those as well.
Okay, great.
We've also got. I can't say too much at the moment because it might make it all fall through. You know what these things are like. But we've got some celebrity interest as well, which is good. I've had an article in the paper.
You can't make a statement like, I can't say too much, but we've got some celebrity.
Well, I can't, unfortunately. I can't say who it is, but we have. So
well, you just need like the EastEnders drums to come in there, don't you?
Yeah. Other soap operas are available. But the thing is, until it's in the can and it's shot and it's all sorted, but I just want to let people know that things are progressing. There have been a little gap, of 2 weeks of a video going up, but there are lots of things going on in the background.
Well, I know even just from the videos that I do myself, Andy, that they don't just automatically fall out, do they? So...
No.
Okay.
But, I'm very pleased, and I hope everybody likes the Clive Bates interview. I think the finished video is going to be about 6 to 10 minutes, but there is I went through and did a select of the good bits, and I think it was up to about an hour and a half. So there'll be lots from that coming, and right. Clive is a regular on Vapor Trails, isn't he? And
always a good watch.
Absolutely, and he comes from a position of experience and knowledge, and it's more people need to listen to how he thinks about things, because he's got it, nail on the head every time.
Yeah, that's he doesn't seem to get phased by all the manoeuvring, does he?
No, and that was one of his points, was that whereas he appreciates, and because he's not a vapor, he's not a smoker.
Well, indeed, yeah.
But he did say that it needs someone that's slightly out of it, but very passionate about public health, to maintain that level head. Personally, when I heard about the MHRA's announcement, I was shocked and angry and upset, and and my reaction to it was pile more onto SWAP and try and get stuff going straight away, and we did that, and we've got 2 interviews in the can now right then. But the 2 people that I've interviewed have both said, don't worry, this is now the time to put the pressure on, because there's still a fight to be fought, so...
Yeah, there seems to be a fair amount of posturing going on, and some of the speculation, in fact, is, and we may as well just flow into that whole MHRA thing now. Some of the speculation is that what we heard on Wednesday is actually just some posturing and some manoeuvring, and as with anything like this, aided and abetted by the internet forums, there's several different theories on what they might have been up to. But there's a good place to start the discussion, I think, on the MHRA. And Dave, if I could ask you, I watched VT TV, I watched VT Talk on Wednesday night. The other day, I managed to catch up on that. But for the benefit of those who might be unclear, what happened on Wednesday?
Well, on Wednesday, the MHRA, in its infinite wisdom, decided to let everybody know where they stood with respect to the Tobacco Products Directive revisions that are currently going through the EU Parliament and the Envy Committee, and so on and so on and so forth. And they stated what their, and coincidentally the government's, preferred stance would be, and that would be to take e-cigs under medicinal regulation by function, to unilaterally declare that by their function e-cigs are medicines. But Jeremy Mean, in his again, infinite wisdom, decided to take it a stage further and let us know what that actually means to the MHRA and what it will actually mean should the EU be daft enough to go forth and do what the MHRA wants them to do, which is to take e-cigs into medicinal regulation by function. And basically what he said was there is nothing currently on the market good enough to be a medicinal e-cig. Nothing. So everything would be taken off the market probably within 21 days of enactment, because that is what they want to do. The fallout from all of this is a little more than interesting, because a substantial part of the research upon which the MHRA has based this decision has come from a very, very large corporation with a dog in the race, and that would be British American Tobacco, BAT, who provided information to the MHRA, which the MHRA has taken on board, even though BAT is almost disbarred from providing this kind of information under the World Health Organization's.
Well, this is where it really starts to get interesting, isn't it? Now,
isn't it just?
For anybody that isn't up to speed on this, and correct me where I'm wrong here, Dave, because I've been playing catch up for most of today on this, and simply the MHRA did some, let's call them studies, to help them form their position on e-cigarettes. What they actually did was take input. In fact, the version of the document that is around, if you know where to look for it, was actually done by BAT.
Yes.
And it was a study, a report on the Royan electric cigarette.
It was.
I noticed. Now, I looked at that and I thought, this must be from 1997. But the date on it was quite clearly May 2013.
Yep.
So we've got a document here about an e-cigarette, which, I've been vaping since 2010, about halfway through 2010. And I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to buy a Royan. They were gone from the market by then?
Yes.
Yes. So, they've basically taken the original Chinese electronic cigarette, 6 years too late, done a report on it, so that gives you an idea of what they're based it on, and use that as part of the basis for the position they're taking.
Indeed.
Handy.
That's correct.
Yeah. But it gets better, because as you just mentioned there, the World Health Organization, the World Health Organization, and what is it? The FCTC, the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. Is that right? Yeah,
that's correct.
Okay, these are the WHO guidelines that we keep hearing mentioned in the EU debates. Well, the WHO say this and the WHO say that. One of the main things that the WHO have been saying all along is that you can't involve or even talk to people from the tobacco industry, I believe.
That's pretty much the case. I've got it here somewhere, and I'm trying to find it.
I'm sure they use far more words than that, but yeah, go on. Tell us what they actually said.
They do. Where are we at? Because I sent this across earlier. Come on, find it, David. Tell you somewhere. It's in amongst all of this. Here we go. The parties should interact with the tobacco industry only when and to the extent strictly necessary to enable them to effectively regulate the tobacco industry and tobacco products. Where interactions with the tobacco industry are necessary, parties should ensure that such interactions are conducted transparently. Whenever possible, interactions should be conducted in public, for example through public hearings, public notice of interactions, disclosure of records of such interactions to the public. They should reject partnerships and non-binding or non-enforceable agreements with the tobacco industry. The tobacco industry should not be a partner in any initiative linked to setting or implementing public health policies, given that its interests are in direct conflict with the goals of public health. Let me read that one again. The tobacco industry should not be a partner in any initiative linked to setting or implementing public health policies, given that its interests are in direct conflict with the goals of public health. And even worse than that, they, BAT, are the only ones with a dog in the race that's likely to get there.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, Jeremy Mean has already said that there is not on the market at present any electronic cigarette that would gain a marketing authorization. So even though Nicolites are engaged in that, we've just been told theirs is not going to get through. A Nicolite e-cig won't get through. And the Nicodex from CN Creative, it's a 401, which I showed a 401 on the Haze Hour a couple of weeks back, a couple of episodes ago.
Right, yeah.
That won't get through either. So only BAT has a dog in the race that's likely to finish. And their product is not an e-cig. It's a bloody inhalator. It's a pressurised aerosol. It's basically a modified asthma inhaler. So on two counts, they should not be talking to BAT. And because BAT's got a dog in the race, they shouldn't be talking to BAT. They should have no part in this. It's ridiculous. It's unethical. It's wrong. It's disgusting. But the MHRA is sitting there and telling everybody, oh, well, it's fine. Rubbish. Utter rubbish.
But
what twaddle?
It's just unequivocal that they shouldn't be doing this. You know, they should not be dealing with BAT to produce something they base it on. And you've just read the direct quotes that illustrate that point. But the MHRA they've got a cunning plan, haven't they, to get around this, which they've started to implement, and which basically involves pretending it didn't happen.
To some degree, yes.
Yeah. So they've very cleverly removed a load of documents from their website, I believe. Did a bit of blacking out of stuff that was previously public domain.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it's come back up again in an edited format, and some hasn't.
Yes.
So,
Well, I think we're on the third iteration of the PDFs.
Yeah. So, far be it from me to use the word corrupt, because, I'm just not informed enough to know. But I think that looks bloody corrupt to me.
Well, it gets even, the whole thing, there's so much misinformation and disinformation is coming out of this. There are various, I'm going to call them apologists for the MHRA and for the whole idea of medicinalising e-cigs, who are saying, no, it doesn't mean you won't have to go to a pharmacy in order to get an e-cig. When this is all enacted, they'll all still be there in the shops the same as they were before. They'll be over the counter. Hang on, just a minute. They won't. They will not be. If this goes through, you will not be able to go to any of the bricks and mortar stores that you know now, because they'll be out of business, because everything they've got on their shelves will be taken off. And now I know we keep on hearing that it's illegal and that there'll be a court case and there'll be injunctions and stuff like that, but the fact of the matter is, when the MHRA and the EU, if and when they get this through, and please God, every vapor out there, and I mean all 1.3 million, and I don't believe that figure either, but let's for argument's sake say it's right. If everybody comes together and fights this and we win, then it won't happen. But if we don't, and it does happen, the minute they enact this, 21 days, I can guarantee it, they will not go for a very long phase in. 21 days, wallop. Everywhere's shut. You won't be able to buy anything because nothing will have an MA. And what's really, it's boiling my urine as well, he said, trying to keep this fair. The MHRA has said, but it's fine, you can apply for a marketing authorisation. And they're trying to kid people on that current product could apply for a marketing authorisation, while Jeremy Mean stands there and says there's nothing's going to get through. I mean, you and I were both involved in a chat on Twitter the other day with a guy from Gamucci. Now, whether you like Gamucci or not, whether you like the guy or not, He was convinced that he'd be able to put his product into the MHRA and get a marketing authorisation inside 3 years. What he doesn't realise is that it's going to cost over 2 million quid per product.
And I'm going to stop you just there, right? Because we're going to take a break, and I just want to play a little trailer as well. But yeah, 2 million quid. Think about that whilst you're watching these little messages. I've got Gary Dibley has got a bit of a special coming up tomorrow night on Tin Your Tip. Something which I'm glad I'm not flying till Tuesday morning, actually. Simply so I can watch this. And then we'll take our commercial break as well. We'll come back and we'll have a look at some of those costs. Back in about 3 minutes.
Alright, that's me finished. I'm not going to go through the polishing process. Got to keep some in secret. Go from a simple pen blank. Going through the process, not so hard, especially this material. Getting to the final, hope it'll show up well on camera. There was no animals hurt on this video, and it wasn't really my wife's underwear, just in case someone wants to send me a PM. Alright, that's me set up. What I tend to do is I'll get the roughest grip rather than use the tools. I think this gives a better finish. And around the top as much as I can. Different tops, some you can give a lick, and again that's more tooling required. I'm just and the biggest pain in the backside is getting in the drip well.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box. Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
back in the room. And welcome back. Yeah, so don't miss Tin Tip tomorrow. Graham, who does Cyan Mod stuff there, I'm a big fan of his stuff. And he's been absolutely fantastic. And making Gary quite envious with his lathe skills, as far as I can tell.
Oh, yes.
So he did. I think Gary's exact words were, "How does he make that look so easy?" So yeah, some good stuff coming up there. Anyway, we just before we took that break, we were talking about costs, and yes, we were having this sort of discussion with the guy from Gamucci, who seems to think he'll just go and get himself an MA, and that'll be cool. But of course, you dug out the numbers, didn't you? You found a statement on the likely costs of getting an MA, Dave.
Yes.
And so I forgot then, didn't I? Just before we get into that, somebody was asking about where you got the WHO quotes from, and you dug that out during the break, didn't you?
I won't read I can read the whole URL out, but it's basically who.int /FCT/guidelines /
Shall we pop it in the link?
Google for guidelines for implementation of Article 5.3 of the FCTC. It's the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, and it's the guidelines for implementation of Article 5.3. And this went through in November 2008.
Brilliant. And I guess we could also slap that link on our forum for anybody that's interested. Okay, cool. Right, okay, so sorry I cut across you there because I mucked it up royally. We were talking about the costs then of getting an MA. Now you found some MHRA thoughts on the probable costs of achieving an MA, right?
It's quite funny actually. When you read through it, and this is one of the documents that hasn't been massively redacted, you can go and have a look at it. It's under the Q&A section on the MHRA site. And it goes through and says that, you know, the base level is 23,000 for this and 5,000 for that, but there are a few little stings in the tail. For instance, if your product that you get an MA for is imported, then you have an annual import license to pay, which is well over £100,000 per product. Well, no, that's your import license, but you've got your 23,000 per product that
right.
You've got to pay. And then it goes on a little further and says, however, the MHRA might decide that it needs clinical trials. And this would particularly be with reference to something that's been completely redesigned to show the efficacy, as in how much nicotine is actually getting to the blood plasma.
Yeah.
And it is aware that this can cost many hundreds of thousands of pounds. Now, CN Creative would be able to attest to that, because the original budget that they were told by the MHRA to get through a marketing authorisation for the Nicodex would be in the region of £95,000, and they're well over 2 million. Still claiming.
I was going to say that's not even going to get you started realistically.
No.
I mean, one of the things, just for those of you who wouldn't know this, Dave sort of produced all these figures earlier and popped them into a Skype chat, and I had to read them 3 or 4 times just to, you know what it's like when you get a wall of numbers, you know. And I'm an accountant, remember, by trade, and I was like, I'd read the first paragraph. I think I read that about 5 times, and then it started to sink in. And there were all these little hooks and barbs, weren't there? There was comment in there that said, you know, probably you won't need clinical trials. But then it would say, but then a future MHRA audit might decide that they do. So, like, you could almost get your MA, but that's not the end of the deal. You've then got to keep it. So what they were basically saying is some auditor might turn up and say, I think we need a clinical trial on that, and then you're into more millions. It was just absolutely... I mean, best case, you were looking at well over £1 million, weren't you?
Pretty much. If I can just read their point 57.
Go for it.
It makes me giggle. Our marketing authorisation cost estimates assume that applicants would not have to conduct expensive animal and post-market authorisation human clinical trials to satisfy MHRA that the risks to health from long-term inhalation of ENDS vapour are acceptable. However, this may not be the case, and MHRA assessors might ask for these additional trials. The one-off costs of conducting these additional trials would probably run into several hundreds of thousands of pounds.
That was the bit I was thinking of, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you were cynical, which thank God I'm not, but if you were cynical, you might read that and think it almost reads like, well, I don't know, how much have you got?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Or even worse, how much is it going to take to stop you?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's
Maybe
also
just.
going to look at
Maybe
every
just.
part of the supply chain.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely
So
right.
if you import stuff from China as a vendor, the people that make the e-liquid, they have to be looked at as well. So that closes down the China side of things, unless China is willing to comply with the MHRA.
Oh yes, because everything that's made under medicine's license has to be made under good manufacturing practice.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
we're talking about clean rooms, and we all agree that stuff needs to have a level of quality, but this is just taking it. It's
Right.
extracting the urine.
And the one thing that just isn't mentioned in those figures, because it's actually not directly down to the MHRA, right? But I think you guys both know that I do contracting and I work on governance and risk management systems. And the people who spend big money on those are pharma companies. So I'm working for a pharma company at the moment. And my contract out in Germany was working for the biggest generic pharmaceutical company in the world. And they spend, right, but for a start, these guys are all listed on the New York Stock Exchange. This means that they, even though they might be making a product in Europe to sell in Europe, they have to be compliant with the FDA. Okay, and pharmaceutical companies are regulated under a system called GXP. It's the FDA Chapter 11 blah blah blah. Okay, you'll hear it referred to as Chapter 11 or GXP. These guys spend hundreds of millions each year ensuring compliance because they're worried that the FDA will knock on the door and they can shut down a European plant as easily as they can a US plant. Mm-hmm. You know, the MHRA may think they have power. The FDA really do have power in the pharmaceutical world. The fact that you might not be selling something in the US is irrelevant. And I can tell you that businesses that are engaged in making any of these products, that attaining the MA is just the start. Continuing to achieve compliance and passing audits will cost you far more than the original qualification for an MA. Yes. You know, it is not a bloody option if you want to carry on vaping your DY4 at whatever strength you want. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And
Sam Munro's just said, hang on a minute, isn't all the nick we use already pharma grade? Don't make any difference. It's how it's being delivered, isn't it?
Exactly. It's pharma grade. You just don't have the piece of paper to say so. And that piece of paper is unfortunately required at the point that it's decided that you want to sell it as a medicine. So to the guy from Gamucci, first of all, I think he's seriously missing the point. But secondly, I found his attitude very, very disappointing.
Mm.
You know, I don't want to sort of quote you out of turn, Dave, but the statement that you made was, even if only Gamucci's are left on the market, I still wouldn't buy them anyway.
No.
And I'm inclined to agree with you, frankly.
I'll state it outright. I think his attitude stinks. I think his product is overhyped, overpriced, and underperforming. And I think the whole notion that he has in his head that medical regulation for e-cigs is a good idea is selling vapors in the UK straight down the river.
And clearly, I'm just going to quickly pick up a point there that from Davey M in the chat room. He's asking the question: didn't the FDA claim to make e-cigs medicine get thrown out of the US Supreme Court? Indeed, it did, but that was a purely US issue on terms of the classification. The situation we've got here is that the EU or the MHRA, they're going to make that call. It becomes a medicine, and therefore it'll be subject to the Chapter 11 GXP controls. I mean, and it would seriously shock people to know the costs that are involved. I earn a salary by working on computer systems, because if their computer systems aren't compliant, then you can't sell medicine. And there's fairly actual good reason for this. This is making sure that computer systems decide on the recipes for tablets and things like that. You do need to have a system, a quality control system that stands up. You don't want to be like putting something that's going to kill people into paracetamol tablets, because of a cock up in a computer error. So there's justification there. But this is the point. This it's just none of this is relevant or applies to e-cigs. That's why this whole process is a farce.
Well, it gets even worse than that, because when you go past their little bit talking about trials costing several hundreds of thousands of pounds, it says their calculations reveal that very few additional successful quit attempts would be needed in order to justify the costs borne by a single UK marketing authorisation holder. You need to listen to this because this...
Read it again for clarity.
The calculations reveal that very few additional successful quit attempts would be needed in order to justify the costs borne by a single UK marketing authorisation holder. Given the uncertainty of our estimates, we think that the precise result between 1 and 3 additional successful quit attempts a year is much less important than the orders of magnitude of our estimates. These suggest that the policy would only need to be marginally successful, in other words, generate very few additional successful quit attempts for it to be justified. That's on one hand. However, it says, the reverse might also be true. The policy might only need to be marginally unsuccessful for it to be considered a costly failure. And remember, the costliness is down to people that are applying for marketing authorisations. This is people who are selling these things. If the design and implementation of the policy has the effect of reducing access to NCPs, particularly ENDs, in other words e-cigs, then it is possible that the number of successful quit attempts could decline. I would say it's not just possible, it's absolutely certain.
It's nailed on, isn't it?
If there were no substantial countervailing health gains from improvements in safety, the policy's overall impact could be highly negative. Now, the fact is that what they are aiming to do, or what the end result of this kind of policy would actually be to take e-cigs off the market in the format that are already there for however long a period that would be, from 3 weeks to 3 years. That's what would happen. And therefore, the number of successful quit attempts, as they're calling them, would be reduced, massively reduced. And it would be a farrago, a costly... Oh, you know the word I want to say it because I keep on going... But you know what it is. It's just ridiculous. The policy is bound to fail. And what we need to do is make the European Union, the Parliament, Envy Committee, Council of Ministers, all of that, we've got to make them aware of this. We've got to get off our backsides and stop just sitting clattering in. Go and see MPs. Go and talk to MEPs, MPs, anybody that's got influence, and the press, and get them to understand this is marching towards a massive failure if we allow the politicians to get their own way. Now, there is a great deal of upside to all of this, which we'll probably get to in the third half, because I'm made very, very optimistic by my dealings with certain MEPs, and I'll tell you why in a while.
Okay, and that's a great place to break. We're going to take another break now. I'm going to play you another trailer in first, and it's been slightly revamped. The Knees Up, that's coming up. It's the 29th, isn't it? Is it 29th? Yeah. So I'll remember when we get there, honest, because I'm going.
Me too.
It's a week on Saturday.
We've had a venue change. I've heard rumours of things like coaches from Surrey.
I believe so.
Yes.
we've moved venue because we reckon there's going to be a hell of a lot of people there, and I'm really hoping there are. And there's room, if we need it, there's room for 500,000 people on a very comfortable lawn.
Yes, because the sun will shine. That has, I believe, been arranged. So here is version 2 of the Knees trailer, followed by a commercial break, and we'll see you back here in a few minutes.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
iVapour and iVapour Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's iVapour.co.uk and iVapour-elixir.co.uk. iVapour and iVapour-elixir.co.uk, proud sponsors of VapourTrails.tv.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
Back in the room. And welcome back to the third half, as Dave would call it. Now, just before we broke there, you were setting up the third half nicely, weren't you?
Was I?
You were. You said, "I'll come back to that in the third half." Well, it was really quite good, actually, because you were in mid-rant, yet still demonstrated some self-control. So.
It's more than I did on Wednesday night, I'm afraid. I got rather emotional.
I think we all did. I mean, it was a very, very difficult bit of news to get, wasn't it?
Do you know what? It's what I expected. And I know
Really?
people. I know that I do generally assume the worst out of me, because I believe that most of these people are idiots.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so far, you know, they haven't really disappointed, have they, in terms of what you expect them to do? Is what I find. I'm not actually shocked. Obviously, when you sort of step back and you analyse it, it's ridiculous, and you can't. I still don't understand the mindset. It's just kind of a rabid hatred of nicotine.
Yes,
that seems to underpin all of it.
I've been putting this question to a lot of people because, you know, I like, you know, everybody enjoys a good conspiracy theory, and I've been asking, you know, is it how much of that is true? And everybody that I've been interviewing have said, they just consider it to be that the people that make the decisions are ill-informed, and it's down to us to keep on keeping on.
There's another opinion, and I'll put this to you, Andy. I don't know whether you've come across this. One of the most common sort of rationales that people apply to this is they think that it's driven by money. Now, whether that be lobbying by the pharma companies and the tobacco companies, but of course, with the MHRA statement, a lot of people see it as the government attempting to protect its tax revenues. I don't know whether you've got any feedback from people you've spoken to on that. Is that an opinion that crops up very often?
Well, the biggest opinion that crops up most often is the fact that it's on the most part for people who are looking to oversee the birth of a new product onto a market, is that they are risk adverse. They are scared of making a mistake, and being proved that they harmed health later on down the line, like they did with tobacco and stuff like that. But the point that keeps on coming back to me over and over again is the fact that withdrawing these from market and changing something that we all know is very effective and satisfying and enjoyable and something that we love doing, it's just craziness. They just don't understand how it works, and they're scared of this new thing. Now, the more people that can be saying, this works for me, this has done such and such, and these are the reasons why I enjoy it, and this is how it works for me. You sit next to them and you show them, or someone in their office is using one, their view on them changes. So the fear comes from not knowing. So they are just ill-informed, and that goes through every level of the people making these decisions. And it is important, like Etta and like Clive Bates and all the other people out there that have done their research. They need to put their head up and keep saying it, and the people out there who use these products, sit with someone, get in front of these people and show them that this isn't an evil product it needs to be scrutinized and taken away and reclassified. It's working for all these people. That's
why it's so successul, and that's why that's why they're discussing it in the first place. The damn thing is it's a success. I mean, I have to say, I agree with you. I think it's more based on incompetence than money. I do believe that. Obviously, the pharma companies and the tobacco companies are lobbying to them. It's all about money. I agree. Yeah. But I think as far as the politicians are concerned, I think they just don't get it.
Yeah, it's not that simple. Politicians. It's not just the politicians. Some of the latest research has shown that doctors, get this, they've done 5 or 6 years medical training. There are doctors that think nicotine's carcinogenic. 40% of doctors think that nicotine is carcinogenic.
Now, I tell you what frustrates me about that one is not the fact that they think this, because, how would you know unless you'd studied it specifically? We all have to, base... We all only know what we've been told, or what we've chosen to go and find out. Yeah,
or what we've experienced.
But the BMA is supposed to be an organisation that keeps doctors informed. It could be finished with one sodding blog, yes. One email to correct that fallacy, one sort of communication through the medical journals to say, "Hey guys, these are better than fags." Well, if your patient isn't getting on with NRT, why not? It's a safer alternative, and they won't do it, and then you start to understand the conspiracy theories. Why won't they do it? Because let's face it, they have the ability to read the same information we do, to listen to the same sort of educated people who studied these things that we do, and it doesn't happen. Although I do believe they softened their tone a bit, didn't they? In the last couple of days, there was something came out of the BMA. I saw a reference to it, and I've read, like yourself, Dave, I've read so many websites, and it hasn't all stuck, I'll be honest. But I'm pretty sure I saw an article from the BMA actually saying, these are perhaps not as bad an idea as we first said they were.
Oh, yeah, it's subject to meds regs. They think they're brilliant.
Yeah.
Subject to meds regs. Purely and simply because they're aware that without any intervention, and this is the important part, with zero intervention from on high, whether it be BMA, whether it be NICE, whether it be MHRA, whether it be the government, anybody, there's been zero intervention, zero promotion, 1.3 million, according to Rory Morrison, who put the figures together, 1.3 million using e-cigs.
Yeah.
The BMA has now jumped onto the harm reduction bandwagon, and they've acknowledged that the fewer cigarettes you smoke, the better your health is likely to be.
And just look at the irony, when these organisations that you've just listed there, the MHRA, NICE and so on, start to intervene, it looks like that number's going to reduce dramatically.
Oh, as soon as they start to intervene, they'll screw it up.
Yeah.
Harm reduction is not about intervention. Harm reduction is a consumer-led thing. You make the decision that you want to reduce harm. And I've been drinking it tonight. I'll show you. I hope the hell it comes up. There you go. Look at that.
Yeah, okay. You've just lost all credibility with me.
Well, look, the fact of the matter is, I quite frequently describe myself as a fat bloke with a big gob who's not afraid to use it, and that's what I am. Now, I don't mind the big gob and not being afraid to use it. That's been me right the way through my life. But I would like not to be the fat bloke. I'd actually like to get my figure back and, look a bit more like Dr. Christian there, buff, like I used to be 10 years ago. Believe that if you like. But I've made a choice to reduce the harm from full fat Coke because it was making me fat, so I use diet Coke.
And for me, you used the magic word there, Dave. Choice.
Yeah.
You chose to do it.
I chose, and there are 1.3 million people in the UK today that have chosen to remove some of the harm from their lives that was being caused to them by smoking tobacco, potentially. Now, that's a consumer choice. It's got nothing to do with interventionist people. It's got nothing to do with ASH. It's got nothing to do with Cancer Research UK. It's got nothing to do with anybody but the person that's making the choice. That's the bottom line. And segueing into what I said we'd be talking about, there are MEPs out there that understand that. And I'm going to say this, one of the people that's impressed me most throughout all of this is Rebecca Taylor.
Yeah.
MEP.
Yeah.
When first this whole thing got started, she was going down everybody's throat saying these things are a menace, they're dangerous, but she's taken the time to do the research. She's listening to the people that are out there, and she has proposed, together with Chris Davis and Fjellner and Engstrom, they have proposed a set of amendments which actually look at how these things work, what people want, how we use them, and what the end game for them could be. And really, we've got to get as many MEPs as we can to follow that, and we've got to get all of the MPs to get onto the health department in this country and get them to get the MHRA to wipe this off the face of the planet, because it's just ridiculous.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I was commenting myself on UKV the other day on this. There's a lot of people who think it's pointless talking to the MEPs, and I'll put the cards on the table. There are one or two MPs and MEPs out there, and you're wasting your time talking to them. But to be honest with you, until you've tried talking to them, you don't know whether they are. I would put it to you that the likes of our Glenys, she's going to do what the Labour Party thinks best, but Linda McCavan has softened slightly.
She has.
Rebecca Taylor and Chris Davis are cracking examples, and let me be quite blunt at this and look straight at the camera and say they're doing what MEPs are voted in and paid to do. They're listening to people and representing their interests, not some bloody party line or some personal crusade. And, you know, I mean, I wish either of those guys were in my constituency, because I'd vote for them, you know. And I'm pretty sort of fixed in my political beliefs. So I wouldn't normally vote for the Lib Dems, but I'd vote for those guys.
Yes.
You know, because they heard us. They made an effort to go and find out. Both of them opened their blogs and said, I don't know much about this. Tell me what you think. They listened. They weren't bulldozed. Neither of them were just, you know, they cannot be accused of just sort of rolling over and, like, you know, getting some cheap votes out of people. They contested some of the things they were told. They refused to accept some things that were told. But they took the whole argument, made a balanced decision, and ultimately have come to the common sense opinion. I can't say that. Unfortunately, Glenys is one of my local MEPs. You know, there's just no turning her. I've published some of the email conversations I've had with her on here, you know, and it's like banging your head against the wall. But, you know, anybody that thinks that there's no point in trying, you're wrong. You know, there are a number of people. There are MEPs out there who are using this as for political gain. You know, and I think it's safe to say some of the UKIP MPs, they've said continually, we'll be supporting you because we don't think this decision should be made in Brussels. Which is fair enough, that's what they represent. I'd also point out the fact that they therefore might not necessarily disagree with the MHRA's decision, because there's a decision made in the UK, so, you know, you know.
You've got to be careful what you wish for.
Exactly. So you don't, you know, you don't have to sell out your political allegiances or anything here. You know, just talk to these guys, the good ones who are worth their bloody salaries. They'll listen to you.
Well, I mean, let's be right about it. I was tweeting and talking to Rebecca Taylor during the course of this last week, and she's guardedly optimistic that there is growing support for her set of amendments within the Envy Committee, which is good news. But what I'm getting is they need more support. They need support from the EPP. They need support from the Greens, and they need some more support from the likes of the MEPs in the UK that can, you know, see where the argument is. The more people they have on board, the better chance there is of success. And I've got to say that, notwithstanding the sterling work that Catherine Devlin does with ECITA and who have been badly misrepresented by the MHRA.
Oh, terribly, yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. They've said that they represent only a small minority of the e-cig business in the UK. E-Light is the biggest of the lot.
Yeah.
They've got 40% of the market to themselves, and then you look at the rest of the ECITA membership, and they don't represent a minority. But I mean, there's all kinds of stupidity coming out of this. Totally Wicked, for instance, has sent 750 tornado-type e-cigs across so that MEPs can be informed as to what an e-cig actually looked like. The one that's probably the most popular in the UK is the tornado style with a Vision Eco on top. And some bloody-minded MEP came in and said this was disgusting lobbying on behalf of the industry. It's bloody education, not lobbying. It's not disgusting. It's what MEPs need to know in order to be able to vote sensibly. This is what an e-cig is. And then being lambasted by idiots that can't see what education is.
And this against the backdrop of a report by the MHRA that has based at least some of their point of view on the study of a 1997 Royan electronic cigarette.
Absolutely.
So that's about, you know, that is exactly right, you know.
Yes.
Do you know what? We've hit time.
We have, yes.
And it's a shame because that debate could roll for a while. Now, Andy, I don't want to keep you from your editing, so we're going to wrap up on time. We've got an imminent release, I believe.
Yes. There are two videos and more in the pipeline coming shortly.
can't wait to see those. I don't know when they'll be out and who's on air next, but I'm sure we'll be able to let you know when they're about from VTTV. But subscribe to the Smoke Without Fire. Well, it's SWAF campaign, is it the YouTube user?
SWAF campaign on YouTube and Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, so subscribe to that and then you'll get an email every time one gets uploaded. And you'll see them like super quick. Can I just say thank you very much to both of you. Dave, that's a fantastic input and, keep up the work. I know how much time you spent and spend looking at websites and digging out all these stats and quotes and bits of stuff. It really is appreciated.
Well, I've got to say thank you as well, everybody on Twitter that keeps feeding me all this stuff as well.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough hours in the day. But I'm just getting kicked off cat with 30 seconds over.
Oh, she's out of bed. Tell her
Yes.
she's ill. Tell her she's crap at being ill.
She's not and she's totally devoted to vapor trails. You know that.
Don't we know it? I'll see if I can catch up with her in a bit. So Andy, best of luck with the ongoing Smoke Without Fire campaign. Dave, thanks very much and thanks to both of you for joining me tonight. We gotta go. I'm gonna play the credits. Where's the camera? There it is. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Cloud9 Vaping. Sponsors